Sir, as rightly said that the framework, the point of framework, I just want to bring one perspective from your thing. If we talk about today's framework, even framework as 17 goals even as given, and if we look back to the Indian philosophy, do you think that this framework was actually ingrained into the Indian philosophy, which is, we worship the nature, which was there, or do you think this is something world has just innovated?
India has very much adopted this. In fact, going by the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, India's Niti Aayog has already produced a report called SDGI Index Report. That's a huge report. It has two components. One part is the scorecard of the various states, and the other part is the explanation of the 17 development goals to an Indian context, and therefore what are the things to be adopted to make it applicable for the Indian environment. They have not considered 4 such parameters. Of all the 17, they have taken 13 parameters. They have not considered 4. The 4 they have not considered, not because those 4 are unimportant for India. Those 4 they have not considered because the data availability on those 4 dimensions is difficult. So they are very much tracking the states by those 13 dimensions. Niti Aayog reports also mentions a direction and a goal to be given to the various states. The training, workshop, creation of the awareness, steps that they need to do, public-private partnership to really bring the 13 dimensions of this SDG cross the threshold which they feel should be good for India, which they have kept somewhere around 60 on the composite as well as on all the 13. So 4 states have so far crossed 60. Indian average is around 57 or 56 on the composite as well as on the most of these dimensions. So Niti Aayog is taking it very seriously and also asking the private enterprises to participate in that and help in this. They have also identified 62 items within the 72. Within the 17 SDGs, they have broken up into 62 items of priority distributed under the 17 SDGs, which needs to be controlled faster, considering the Indian economic, geopolitical, social situation, whatever poverty, the country's terrains and the landscape and everything. They have identified 62 priority elements which goes into the 17 SDGs. So therefore it's a very serious endeavor being put in, and also most of the states, as I know at least our own state, engaged a leading consulting firm by the Ministry of Statistics and Planning, which is more focused on the policies and the planning board. From our state engaged a leading consulting firm to identify, to work out the relevance of these 17 SDGs to our state, what sort of framework we should be having, to provide a scoring to the present situation, to see by 2030 where will we be going, to also put in a kind of a targeted number by 2030, what should be the roadmap, what should be the plan. And this assignment has just been completed by the leading consulting company, and they have submitted a report with the implementation plan and also. And that is going around all the departments of the state for the departmental heads to socialize, understand, interpret and work out on those action items.
Very, very important, I think, that exercise has been taken. Sir, but as you have been talking that inclusiveness is very important, and sometimes for all the countries, everything is not possible. Like in India also, you could not manage to have all the 17s. We are going at with the 13s. But if I'm talking about from a individual perspective, if I want to see that I as a person want to participate and contribute to the sustainable goal which has been taken by the state or a country, what are the primary basic necessity as a responsibility me to perform, in your opinion?
Of the 17, there are only 2 or 3 where possibly a direct individual participation can slightly better or augment, not all the 17, because most of those will be me working along with many people as a part of a country or as a part of a company. But individually, if I want to participate, I can think that the one where is clean and availability of water. So that's the one where the realization, at least from individual side, whatever minuscule contribution it could be, that how clean I cannot control, because I do not have mechanisms to make the water clean, but the availability is something that I can control. Life under the land is one such, which means that how much water and useful elements from beneath the land I am actually extracting. So therefore, like, we are really trying to see that these deep tube wells, which are actually taking and going much below the land to pull up, take out, extract water. It's something which people are advising, though I don't think it has been passed as an act or a law to consider it as a crime, but at least people are advising people not to do that. Those submersible pumps and pulling water from beneath the land. So at an individual level, that can be one, we definitely can contribute. Gender equality. So therefore, gender equality is one such 17 SDGs, and gender empowerment and gender equality. And of course, corporates, government through the policy will have to bring in gender equality and gender empowerment. But even in our day-to-day lives also, we can definitely give all kinds of genders their equal importance and all. I think there was one more, like in women employment and women employment and empowerment, if I'm not wrong, there is one such which is there, employment and empowerment. Now, an individual definitely can play a big role, and of course all the not from the urban women, but even today's rural women also are coming in or generating employment. They are also becoming entrepreneurs in the rural, so there could be more coming in. But even they need their family support, their husband support. So therefore, the gender woman empowerment, woman employment, and the gender equality and the water. In my understanding, these are the three where, at least from an individual level, I can play. But in all 17, I can play a very good role as a part of being in a company or as a part of being in a country by abiding by the policies.
Right, sir. As you mentioned that probably this not only the three, in everywhere an individual can participate and contribute to. But one of the criticism to these 17 goals, what we observed and we have been discussing in many forums, that it seems to be an action oriented, means then it is an statehood or the countryhood policy. Means what I mean to say, when the state or country needs to implement those policies, but it's not something that bottom up. I mean to say, like if you talk about the Indian culture and everything, it's something we inherit. So those sustainable goals, do you think there is a misalignment or the alignment is perfect?
No, I don't think there is any kind of misalignment in that, because one of the first one of the sustainable goal is no poverty, and an individual cannot, of course, control anything in terms of the poverty, but an individual can control also, you may consider, in terms of the poverty, like you can also control, I can also control in terms of the poverty by being in an organization, trying to make that organization do good work so as to generate employment for the country, more employment for the country, employment for the state, livelihood for the state, or by being an entrepreneur and making fair and equitable distribution of the profits also. So therefore, when I say that an enterprise needs to control, that doesn't mean, because enterprise is not just cannot actually happen without the individuals. So it's an individual definitely directly or indirectly controls. Those are the three where they can possibly play a bigger direct role. The rest is where they may play an indirect role. So like a poverty alleviation, or say sustainable economic growth. Now sustainable economic growth to a large extent will also have to come from a sustainable economic policy. But that does not mean that as an individual I can only consider that a sustainable economic policy is only the government's duty and it is not my duty to create a sustainable, because whatever I do, whatever organization I serve, whether I am academician or a researcher or an individual or an entrepreneur, I definitely in my own way can contribute to a country's economy. But the framework of the country's economy has to be appropriate, so that whatever that goes and contributes to the country's economy will also have to be seen that it is properly being used in removing that poverty, where possibly I am not controlling, but I can play definitely a role directly or indirectly in all these 17 cases. Like say affordable and clean energy. I may not be a person associated with energy sector at all, but if I am associated, then in that case, through my own work, if I am associated with a generation company or with a distribution company, so I may be one out of the 50,000 employees working in a coal generation company, or in a a power generation company, or in a power distribution company. But through my own good contribution, I actually can make that organization do well, as a result of which, so my productivity will definitely help in improving my company's productivity, and therefore indirectly it can always bring down the prices of the energy, and therefore it becomes more affordable. So therefore in that way the argument can be quite tenuous, the chain can be quite long, that you may consider that my participation may actually contribute a very negligible percentage to the profitability of that power generation company, and that in again will go down to the reduction of an energy price. But it's definitely I can contribute. It's definitely I can contribute in some manner.
Yeah, but the point I was trying to make, the conflicting, in my opinion, where I was trying to understand that the alignment has happened or not. When that there is an UN goal that poverty, removal of poverty or elevation of poverty, so that the individual's aspiration, it seems to be that it's an state affairs, but it is also an individual affair. So do you think that this has to be also embraced?
Yes, I mean, if we think that the no poverty is completely a country's mandate, or a country's responsibility, or a country or a government's responsibility or a lookout, then we will be very wrong. Right. Because the poverty alleviation has to come from the private enterprises also, poverty alleviation has to come from the institutes also, because they have to generate more mechanisms of how to reduce the poverty, because newer and newer opportunities of creating the revenue for the country also needs to be worked out. The economists will have to do, the scientists will have to work on it, everybody will have to work on working out newer mechanisms of the reduction of the country's poverty. So definitely, so as a result, when Niti Aayog also published that report, so Niti Aayog is also saying for each one of these goals, what is the game plan, and therefore what role will everybody be playing. So the companies will be playing, individuals will be playing, institutes will be playing. So they are also defining that kind of a path, that but it's very much subject to your own interpretation also. Like I can definitely read it, but doesn't mean that I only have to follow the policy, because that's more of an advice that is being given. I can consider that in this manner I can contribute to the country's 17 sustainable development goals, the number one, which is no poverty. I can contribute to the achievement of that goal in this manner. I can also think. But if you are saying whether 1.2 billion population of India is very strongly aware of all these 17 development goals and they are plunging themselves into the improvement of that, that is very difficult even for any such concepts, not just the sustainable development goals, for any such thing for 1.2 billion population with various kinds of academic education level that we have, exposure that we have to be aware of every concept that the world brings in, and therefore they will jump in and contribute. So some people initially will definitely, without knowing the subject, will also have to be beneficiary, because we have to give them that benefit, because they, even properly understanding the subject, they have to be the beneficiary. By achieving that benefits, they will come to a certain level and then they will start contributing in it.